Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are waking up and feeling good out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great weekend out there so far. We got some things to speak on in this morning's video, and the first thing we'll talk about is the days leading up to Christmas. I still think there's a lot to figure out in this time frame. Yes, there has been some changes in the wrong way for snow weather fans, especially for folks in the southeast, but I still think there is something there. You know, a lot of people look at this model, guys, and they say, okay, well, it's not showing blue and pink and purple, so it's definitely not going to happen. And that could be true. In fact, it's probably going to be true most of the time. But there's a lot of things going on up above that we don't really see. It's a lot of energy in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and I still think the energy is there. I think it's moving at jet speed, and we need to slow down. But I still think the energy is there. So we're going to go over all model guidance like we've been doing over the last several mornings for this time frame that I'm watching. Not only is there just one area of energy, there's multiple areas of energy, and we need to watch that could reflect to the surface as snow or something. So we need to still figure this out. We're going to continue to do so. And then we're going to speak on just the fact that we are going to have a blast of cold air right before Christmas. How cold will that be? We'll speak on that in this video. And then I got you covered as far as what's going to happen weather-wise for your Sunday, as we do have a winter weather event that's pretty much ongoing right now across the Appalachian Mountains. It's going to bring enough to prompt winter storm warnings as far as winter weather across areas of like West Virginia and surrounding states. So we're going to speak on that, really zoom into individual areas across the Northeast and even southern New England as far as how much ice and snow you could potentially get, excuse me, over the next 24 to 36 hours or so. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can do that and so others have an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So hope you guys are doing well. All right, let's start it off by looking at the GFS from this morning. Now I'm going to go back and compare it to, say, last night's GFS and even maybe yesterday evening's GFS. We're getting some flip-flopping big time. So we're going to start all this model guidance off by this coming Tuesday evening. So this is the evening of the 17th. We're going to continue to move this forward all the way into Wednesday morning. All right, there's some snow breaking out across lower Michigan, even northern sections of Indiana, Ohio. This is Wednesday morning. If I forget to mention the time in the video, it's right here, very small, I know, and right here too. Acronyms for the days, WED, Wednesday. Most people should know that. 18th December. So this is getting into midway next week. We got an all rainmaker for most of the rest of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley down to the Mid-South. This is mostly rain. We're going to continue to move this forward. The snow begins to move into southern Ontario. It's starting to snow even in Cleveland, enough cold air based off the GFS. There's even some differences with this storm system, which once upon a time showed as a potential for a significant storm system. At this point, I don't think it's going to be that, but definitely going to be some sort of storm system midway next week. Not enough cold air down here in like West Virginia, Kentucky, etc. to be any winter weather, mostly rain. So we keep this going, and the GFS says all rain for southern New England, the I-95 corridor all the way down to the Delmarva, but the interior Northeast, as we're getting into next Wednesday evening, another snow event. And it could be heavy, potentially. All right, here comes a shot of cold air behind it. This isn't the main shot of cold air. This is just sort of a weaker shot, if you will. This could get the lake effect snows on going for a time. That'll move through. All right, lingering just energy over the Northeast in the form of just snow showers, basically. And then here comes another piece of northern stream energy, and this looks pretty aggressive. Could start out some pretty heavy snow across Minnesota, and we will zoom into you folks when the time is right. They're just, the main focus is the eastern U.S. because there is a high end potential here, and then there's a very low end potential here. But you keep this going. We're getting into Thursday afternoon of next week, the 19th. We got this swath of not just moderate snow, but heavy snow in that dark blue moving across Wisconsin into lower Michigan. Definitely the potential for a wintry second half of this work week now coming up. And we keep this going. Another snow event for southern Ontario. Snow starts to move into areas of the Northeast, even PA, even areas of the Mid-Atlantic. Enough cold air now is kind of coming down. And all of a sudden, we have a light to moderate snowfall event across areas of the Northeast this coming Friday. Even New York City, Boston especially, check out this snow. And this is kind of the first system we're watching, and it could just be the main system. Like there was that first system, like Wednesday, right? And then here comes the second system, like the end of this work week, like Friday into Saturday. All right, and then what about after this? This is kind of the time frame we've been watching. There's a trough digging down. You can see that 540 line, that first blue line right here. It tells us there's cold air coming down, at least aloft. A lot of energy right in this area, and not reflecting as much to the surface, meaning we're not seeing a whole lot of blues or greens, but there's definitely energy here. This latest GFS does not dig the trough, dig the energy down enough to do anything. But man, if you live in Atlantic Canada, I would really watch this weekend. And we're going to zoom into that, you folks, when the time is right. Probably here in the next day or two, we'll start to have a segment for Atlantic Canada too. But trough digs down. There's just no connection. I'm going to show you what the energy looks like above the surface, above our heads. So that swings through. All right, we're starting to get into the afternoon of the 22nd. All right, we're starting to move past that time frame we're watching. And yes, I'm even extending this into Christmas now because things are starting to look weird around Christmas too. All of a sudden on the GFS, you have another storm system that shows up, enough cold air around, and we have a winter storm breaking out across northern areas of Illinois into Chicago, northern Indiana, Wisconsin. This is getting all the way into the morning of the 23rd. And this turns into a significant winter storm for northern sections of Indiana. It's like a snow to ice kind of situation for Chicago. Not a forecast, but this is starting to show up now. Now this is in that 7 to 10 day range. And, we're starting to move into Christmas Eve evening, if that makes any sense. And we're starting to move into the morning of Christmas Eve. And all of a sudden, we have a snowfall, a winter storm across the Northeast for Christmas Eve on the latest GFS run. Which I will tell you is starting to work a little bit closer to us. It's not that far off anymore. It's sad, but the Christmas season is just booking it on by. This would definitely be way too much warm air down here in the Southeast for anything. And then we'll move it past that time frame and just a big rainmaker for Christmas Day across the rest of the eastern U.S. So it's an interesting look. Now we go back to that time frame I've been talking about a lot, and that is kind of this coming Saturday into Sunday. Now we're going to look at the run before this. There's a lot more energy diving south. In fact, you get a pretty aggressive northwest flow event all the way to the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee and Virginia, even the Cumberland Plateau. There's a lot of energy here. In fact, you almost get a winter storm that gets going here in the Northeast. But there's a lot of stuff going on here, and this really starts to crank up. Low pressure tries to develop here, and it actually turns into a major winter storm for Maine. But it just doesn't do it. It doesn't cut it. And it's wild because that's a pretty big run-to-run difference here off the operational run. You can already tell the trough is digging out further in last night's run. But guys, just please keep in mind that you can't call one run to one run a trend. I see it on all my comments on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I read the comments. I read every single one of them. And you can tell people just go full send on one model run. And then they hit me in the comments with sorry not happening, that, just sarcastic, non-genuine sorry, it's just not happening. I don't know why people do that. They do that with anything in life. It's like they hit you with yeah, Mitch, it's just not going to snow. It's not going to happen. Sorry. It's like, what are you apologizing to me for? I mean, you don't control the weather. I don't control the weather. But anyways, I like to go off on my personal rant here sometimes. And most of the time it's not really a rude comment. It's just you can tell that people unleash their frustration in weird ways, and that's just, and sometimes some people I can just read right through it. Sometimes it is frustrating, especially if you live in the Southeast. But part of it is you got to look at yourself in the mirror, and you cannot just get totally sold into this. I show it because I run a YouTube channel talking about the weather, and I like speaking on it because I like to see if we can work this into a forecast range. And I think that a lot of people probably enjoy that. Now, there's going to be some people that's probably going to be like, why even talk about it? We should just wait until it's like 2 or 3 days out. Well, I'm not going to do that. Maybe somebody else will. But if we're speaking on the Euro, all right, big rainmaker. I'm gonna call it a big rainmaker for the Mid-South. All right, Euro is always a buzzkill. Dr. No is what we call it in the weather community. But it's typically the most reliable model. I think it's the most reliable model out there on average in the world. All right, but you keep this going. Here comes a big rainmaker. for Wednesday evening. All right, this doesn't do a whole lot like it does on the GFS for lower Michigan, but it does bring some snow into the southern tier of New York, northern PA, all rain down here in the mid-Atlantic, and all rain as a low pressure is cutting. It's trying to get strong here. And this is the latest 06Z run too, so this is the latest information. It ain't going to go out as far, but it is the latest information we have. Rain all the way down to the southeast. We got a low pressure cutting across portions of southeast Mass, but this is cold enough on top to be all snow for the interior sections of the northeast. I think there's the potential, if you really, really want to see a white Christmas, man, head on up. I know it's a heck of a ride for me, but in my mind, fantasy-wise, I've kind of thought about it. If you really want to see a white Christmas, head on up to the interior northeast New England area because it looks like you're going to have multiple rounds of snow. But this continues, turns into one heck of a winter storm for Maine all the way to New Brunswick, and then we watch after. Okay, here comes that aggressive-looking northern stream energy, snow into the 19th and the 20th for the Great Lakes region, all the way into southern Ontario, areas of southern Quebec. And then we get a light snow event for the Northeast getting into this coming Friday evening. It doesn't look quite as aggressive as the GFS, but I mean, that is certainly flakes flying around for your Friday evening, Saturday morning for southern New England, very festive morning for your last Saturday before Christmas, and you got the snow flying around, and this is as far out as the run goes. So now we have to switch it back to the OOZ. It's totally different for that. You get a strong low pressure developing late Friday night and Saturday morning on the last Euro. But it's all rain for southern New England. So there's some differences here, man. There really is. And that's why I keep talking about this. Because we're getting so much run-to-run differences. The flow is so fast, I think the models are having a hard time figuring it out. But on the Euro, in that time frame I've been watching for like the southeast, it doesn't show anything. But there is energy bogging down here. It's there. It's just not reflecting to the surface. And you can tell it's there because look at the precipitation that tries to get going. It tries to get going here off the coast of North Carolina, the Mid-Atlantic, the Delmarva. In fact, it looks like it's snowing out in the Outer Banks, about a week from today. It's close. There's energy trying to develop here, but it just doesn't quite do it. And then you look in the kind of time frame after this coming weekend, and I was watching off the GFS, and this is the wild differences between this. This is, for example, this is Christmas Eve morning on the Euro. This is Christmas Eve morning on the GFS. That's a huge difference. It has a snowstorm ongoing for the Northeast. So it's a pretty wild run-to-run difference. But, I mean, it's still in that 10-day range. So, I mean, honestly, it's not surprising. But, you look at the Euro, like Christmas Eve morning, it wants to show an ice event for Missouri. That's not fun for the kids Christmas morning. A winter weather event for Iowa, and you keep this going into Christmas Day, and it's kind of a just winter weather to rain kind of event. But that's getting pretty far out. We got so much to figure out in front of us. And then you look at the Canadian. I think the Canadian is going to show it the best here and how close the potential is here. So we keep this going. And the Canadian can have a cold bias. Okay, we're getting to Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning now. There's that light winter weather event across the Great Lakes region. A little snow for southern Ontario. It's definitely warmer in the Northeast for that first system. All rain for the I-95 corridor. You got to get way up in Vermont, New Hampshire, the Adirondacks, New York, and northern. You got to get in the northern Maine to get snow with this. And then there's a lot of energy. It just hangs around. We get into Thursday. We get the lake effect snows ongoing. And then it kind of clears out into Friday morning. Here comes some energy diving down with the trough. So we got light snow to the morning of the 20th, Friday morning across Chicago, areas of the Midwest, into the Ohio Valley. And then here it is. Watch what happens here. This is Friday evening. We got energy right here, energy right here. Low pressure pops off the coast right here of the Carolinas. And you even got a little bit of snow here in Southwest VA. But this is so close. And I know it's just a Canadian model, one run. Low pressure here. Cold air is right there, and it is close to doing a Carolina Southeast special here. In fact, I'll stop it right here. This is late this coming Friday evening, and I'll zoom into the Southeast. And look at the temperatures in this same panel here. I mean, it would be cold enough. It gets even colder later in the night. Okay, precipitation is just so close, and it is actually hitting the Outer Banks and the extreme eastern North Carolina. So it's there. And you know, I'm not sitting here and trying to just, in a way, I am trying to will this into existence, but I'm also trying to be realistic with you. The chances of this happening, where all of a sudden we get a southeast, even mid-Atlantic winter storm, is pretty low. But I wouldn't say it's zero. But I could see this as something that, because this is still, I would still consider this the long range. I would say once we get into, I would say when Tuesday, that's when we start to enter what I would call the medium range. Everybody has different, takes on that, but that's my take on it. So I could see this as something that could work better for us all of a sudden. And man, wouldn't that be special for snow weather fans? But you know, we're starting to move closer to Christmas, lake effect, snow energy. And then, you know, it shows some sort of system, just like on the GFS and the Euro way back here trying to get going. So we'll figure that out as we get closer. Now, you know, we look at the GFS ensemble and, you know, we're talking about snowfall, right? So this is a 24-hour period. So you're going to see snow pop up on your screen, then disappear. That's because this is in 24-hour segments. All right. So you're going to see all the rounds on the ensemble, which is one of the most reliable things you can look at. So we start to get into Wednesday morning. There's that first storm signal for the Great Lakes region, getting into Wednesday. And then that moves into the Northeast Wednesday night into Thursday. So a little signal for some light to moderate snow across the Northeast. And then here comes our next little system. All right, the northern stream energy diving in. This could be more of an aggressive snow event for the Great Lakes region. Maybe a few to several inches as we're getting into Thursday night and Friday morning. And then that moves into the Northeast, and this is when it gets weird. You see the southern extension right here of the signal. It's hard to even call it a signal, but the southern extension right here of a little bit of snow showing up all the way into North Carolina. And then you see this kind of area right here in central to south east Virginia into the Delmarva. There's multiple things that's picking up on here. First off, we're going to get that northern stream energy, but it's trying to tap into some energy from the southern stream, some sort of phasing. And that's why you get this extension all the way to almost Wilmington of a little signal for snow. But it's certainly there for all the Northeast. And what's wild to me is you even get a little something that pops up here like the morning of the 23rd. But that's probably skewed by one or two members. But there is still some members that wants to show some energy kind of shooting down here with enough cold air funneling down. So there's a little signal right there. And there's another one that comes up Christmas across Tennessee. There's a lot going on here. That's why I just haven't completely, I'm not going to stop talking about this because, you know, it's not showing the pretty blues in the Southeast. I still think there's something here. Now the Euro ensemble, first storm signal, not very loud for the Great Lakes region, but definitely increases for the Northeast. Here comes that northern stream energy, which is further north on the Euro. This dives down. Delivers some snow for the Northeast Saturday morning, but it's not as much for the South. But then as we're getting into Sunday, you see the extension of snow a little bit further south. In fact, you know, as we're starting to get into Sunday night, Monday morning, the 22nd to the 23rd, look at this little signal down here in the Carolinas. That is because members out of the 50 or so members that show up on the Euro ensemble, there are still some members that are showing a scenario where this could try to work out for the mid-Atlantic and even areas of the upper Southeast. It's still there. There's something there. And then even into Christmas, there's just a huge widespread light signal for something in these areas. So, you know, it's very interesting stuff here for sure. And we're still trying to figure this one out, but you know, if we're looking at, so this is the latest Euro run, what happens here is a trough digs down here, amplifies, trough is in the blue, lower pressure will bring down cold air. You know, I had a great question in yesterday morning's video saying, you know, the low pressure, he was basically saying, I didn't think a low pressure brought cold air. Well, lower pressure pulls down cold air, like on this side right here, and it brings a cold front, which then pulls in the cold air. Okay, so this is the trough that digs down that brings unsettled weather across the eastern U.S. Now, what you're going to see here is impulses of energy that rounds that goes around this trough. So you're going to see energy that kind of tries to shoot down here, then wrap up like that, then wrap up like that. So what you want here is this trough, this area in blue, to really dig down this way. That would help bring cold air further back here, and then it'll give the opportunity for some of this energy to really dig down here and then get stronger and go that way. Okay, we really need this to go that way. And, it just keeps going back and forth. We'll have a run or two that'll trend this back this way, and then it'll go back that way. But if, I keep saying energy, a better way to look at this is the vortices in the atmosphere. All right, here comes that first area of energy. Well, this is actually the second. Okay, that's with the trough, and then the trough amplifies, and there's energy with that trough. And you can just see rounds of energy just kind of swinging through with this trough, embedded in this trough, just energy kind of swinging down. You need this way down here. All this slashing of blue, you need this like down here. Therefore, you can get these vortices that will come down here, really have a chance to phase and just do something special snow-wise for the southeast. You don't need it way up here. It digging down here would even help it work out more for areas of the coastal regions of the northeast too. So that's what you really need here, guys. And are we going to get it? Probably not, but I still think that there's something there. It's worth speaking on for sure. One thing we're really confident is below average temperatures between the next 6 to 10 days. So this takes us between, let's see, I love how you can click on this on weather-wise. This is the 20th through Christmas Eve. So the days leading up to Christmas, going to be cold. I mean, in that darker blue, that's a 70% chance of temperatures being below normal. So it looks like we're going to have a cold days leading up to Christmas. And you look at the 8 to 14 day outlook. This takes us well past Christmas, and big warm up on the way for the entire country, but still hanging on for dear life to average to slightly below average temperatures for the eastern U.S. So warm up does look likely after Christmas. Now, this is temperatures compared to average. So when you start to really get into the greens, that's really well below average. So I think it's going to be a warm first couple days of this coming work week. Definitely. Temperatures in the 70s for the south. But then we have this first cold front that will move through. That'll cool us down for the eastern U.S. And then really it's the one behind it that brings a shot of Arctic air all the way down to the eastern U.S. And, this is for the evening of Saturday. All right, well below average temperatures. Man, some of these playoff games, big weekend for the playoffs, college football playoffs, are going to be cold, maybe even snowy. But this greens, this is like 10 to 15 degrees below average. And then it just really gets even colder just for a period. We're starting to get into the 22nd, 23rd, and it's just well below average. We get all the way into Christmas Eve morning, very cold morning across the eastern U.S. And then by the time we get into Christmas morning, it's still showing below average temperatures for the extreme eastern U.S. But, this eventually gets beaten away, and it starts to get, above average for most of the country. But as far as what that looks like with high temperatures, I mean, look, this is Tuesday. Look at these temperatures in the 70s, even some 80s in Florida. I mean, it's definitely even warming up all the way for the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Northeast. And then another really warm day for the South for Wednesday. Starts to cool down. First cold front moves in. That's not super cold air. It's really the reinforcing cold front that moves in. So these are high temperatures for Saturday, right? Let's go back to Saturday, well below freezing for these states in the Northeast, the Mid-South, highs only in the 30s and 40s off the blend of all models. And then it's getting much cooler down here in the Deep South, highs in the 40s and 50s. And then for this coming Sunday, about a week from today, I mean, these are really hot, cold temperatures. I mean, temperatures only in the 20s and teens for the Northeast, 30s pretty far south, 40s pretty far south. And then it might begin to moderate, but still a very cold next Monday. Then Christmas Eve. Still cold day, but not as cold. Looks like it begins to moderate as we get closer to Christmas Day. So, but these low temperatures, I mean, they're going to be pretty cold too. We'll back it up here. Low temperatures for Wednesday morning. And then look at those single digits in the upper Midwest, below zero for certain sections also. And then we get into Wednesday. This is Friday morning. 30s pretty far south. Nothing unusual though. And we're just going to take it all the way to Sunday morning. I mean, lows in the single digits for the Northeast, low 20s for the Southeast, just 20s all the way down to the Panhandle of Florida. And just a cold Monday morning, next Monday morning, single-digit lows for the Northeast, the low teens for the Midwest, Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region, teens all the way down to the Southeast. So we'll see how this happens, but even a cold Christmas Eve morning for the Eastern U.S. So we're going to see what happens with this pattern. I'm definitely intrigued by it, that's for sure. But as far as today's forecast, what's going on right at this moment, we got a wintry mix of precipitation moving across the favored areas of the Central Alps. Full-fledged wintry mix moving across PA, starting to move into areas of New York. This is all rain for the western side of the Appalachian Mountains. Just not really any cold air getting trapped. Just kind of a weak high pressure that's drifting away, that's there close enough to bring enough cold air for the winter storm in these areas. But we got rain across the Mid-South. We got this area of energy up here that's bringing a wintry mix. We'll talk about that here in a second. But elsewhere, the western U.S. is quieter this morning, and that's what's going on right now. As far as watches, warnings, and advisories, so we'll zoom into the Appalachian Mountains first. I mean, there's a winter weather advisory as far south as like Hendersonville, Asheville, including this, Boone, Blacksburg. We'll zoom in. Beckley has it, all the way into like Harrisonburg, Broadway. Cumberland, you're under a winter weather advisory, but just to your west, winter storm warning. Even in Hagerstown, winter weather advisory. And we got these winter storm warnings out for the favored areas of the Allegheny Mountains, the Highlands, and those places. And then we even got winter weather advisories all the way back to Cleveland, Akron. Winter weather advisories all across this purple area of PA. This includes Scranton, Williamsport, Harrisburg, not quite included in that, but even northern sections of New Jersey up into the Poconos, Catskills area, winter weather advisories, even winter weather advisories all the way up to Springfield, Mass, Hartford, and those places. New York City, you don't have any kind of winter weather alerts with you guys. And we'll kind of zoom out. Winter weather advisories up for lower Michigan for the little bit of ice today, and of some special weather statements, and some winter weather advisories up here for the northern sections of Minnesota, North Dakota, the Dakotas in general, and then we have some winter storm warnings up for the higher elevations of the Rockies, and winter weather advisories also. So winter storm watches have been reissued up for Oregon, where another system is going to move. And then we even got some frost advisories down here closer to the coastal regions of California. So as far as the southeast today, we'll continue to get the wintry mix in those higher elevations, even a little bit of snow in the higher elevations of Virginia, West Virginia. We'll talk more on that here in a second. But just rain showers after it warms up across the western Carolinas, which will be quite cold today with some cold air damming setting up. Some showers all the way into southeast Georgia. Showers and maybe even a thunderstorm or two in northern Mississippi, Arkansas. And just rain showers will continue into the overnight hours across the Carolinas into Virginia. We'll even get some thunderstorms in the Boot Hill, Missouri, late tonight to the wee hours in the morning tomorrow morning. And then we'll just get another slug of heavy rain, embedded thunderstorms across western Kentucky, Tennessee. I mean, maybe all the way up to Evansville, southern sections of Illinois, Arkansas. And it'll wake up to a pretty stormy Monday morning tomorrow morning. So as far as the Northeast, big slug of moisture moving in, mainly rain for Ohio and Kentucky and western West Virginia. But here comes that wintry mix this afternoon, taking over areas of central PA in the form of snow, a little bit of freezing rain, some sleet. These events like to overachieve sometimes, so I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gets a little bit more snow than what they're forecast. But look at a little bit of a slither of snow in northern New Jersey. Snow starts to move all the way up into the southern Adirondacks. The Catskills get a light to moderate snow event. Snow tries to make it all the way overnight tonight into Connecticut and western Mass. And then look, it'll kind of end as some heavy wet snow after midnight tonight in PA. And then just a light wintry mix as possible. The wee hours in the morning in southern New England. Could get a light wintry mix all the way to Boston. And then the rest of this is just mainly rain. It's getting into tomorrow morning for New Jersey and the Delmarva. So a closer look at some of these areas, though. You know, snowshoe, about an inch of snow. Cumberland, maybe 2 inches of snow, a little bit. And those higher elevations, maybe a few more inches of snow. This is happening right now. So a little bit of ice is possible with this, too. We'll look at ice. Snowshoe could get over 0.2 of an inch of ice. In this red area, over a 1/4 inch of ice is possible. And then we go on and move into the further east here in the mountains of West Virginia and Virginia. And this is going for 2 to 3 inches of snow in Cumberland and just an inch or less, and kind of the foothills of Virginia, if you will, and some of the mountainous regions. But, it's really the ice we have to watch out for. A solid glaze. Someone could get a couple 1/100ths of an inch of ice. Cumberland can get a decent event out of this. A couple inches of snow, maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice. Oakland, 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 inch of ice. If you got pictures around this area, definitely send them to me on social media. I would love to see. And then up in here into PA, just scattered few inch snow amounts here. State College, maybe 1 to 2 inches of snow. Williamsport, 1 to 2. Wellsboro, 1 to 2 inches. Scranton, an inch or less. And we look at the ice in these areas, and not what I want to see here. Let's see. All right, here we go. Somerset, almost a 1/15 of an inch of ice, and just scattered a few 1/100ths of an inch of ice type totals. Nothing too crazy, but some of these areas could get a solid 1/10 of an inch of ice. And then we move on up the road. Just north of New York City, some of these higher hills could get an inch or less of snow. Middletown, maybe an inch. Get back off. Some of my cats are fighting in the background. I can hear them. A couple 1/100ths of an inch of ice to maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice in Danbury, Waterbury, New City. So solid little glaze of ice in these areas. And then last thing we'll look at is the Boston area. And let's look at this. Boston, basically all of southern New England. Couple 1/10 of an inch of snow to maybe an inch or so of snow in the Berkshires is certainly possible. And just a little bit of ice, not even worth pulling up a graphic. Just a couple 1/100ths of an inch of ice is possible. So definitely don't let that event catch you off guard there. Those events can overachieve when you have a lot of moisture crashing into just still some leftover cold air. That advection, warm air advection certainly can overachieve sometimes, especially with the snow. The south central U.S., it's quiet this morning, but we're going to get some thunderstorms in east central Texas, and we'll get some thunderstorms in southern Arkansas today, and then we're going to get widespread thunderstorms overnight after midnight across eastern Oklahoma, kind of the Texarkana area, the northern half of Arkansas, some thunderstorms all the way up into the Boot Hill, Missouri, and just basically where Paducah, where Illinois, Kentucky, and Missouri and Tennessee, Arkansas all kind of come together. Very stormy start to your Monday morning. So expect that. The north central U.S. continue to get a little bit of light freezing rain, maybe in sections of lower Michigan this morning, and then that'll clear out. And then we'll watch this little spinny guy out here spin around, drop some winter weather across North Dakota. This will kind of make its way into northwest Minnesota later in the 24-hour period, like tomorrow morning. And then this will just drop a few inches of snow across the northern counties of Minnesota all throughout tomorrow also. But we look at how much snow could fall. A couple inches of snow in North Dakota, especially the further north you get. Same thing with northern sections of Minnesota. Couple inches of snow, not a whole lot. Maybe a little glaze of ice, especially in northwest North Dakota, and then northeast Montana. Maybe 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice is possible in these areas. So definitely be aware of that. And just looking at the northern plains, closer look at that. There's a little bit of ice in eastern Montana, and the snowfall totals, there you are, just an inch or two. So the western U.S., scattered moisture across the northern Rockies in the form of that higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain. And then we get a bigger system later tonight that moves into the Pacific Northwest. Cascades will start to get smoked with snow, including Northern California. And then this system will overspread Montana, or western Montana, Idaho, and the favored areas of Washington and Oregon also. So we'll get a winter storm breaking out across these areas, and then another storm system begins to move through also. So snowfall between now and the next 24 hours. Certainly a lot in the northern Rockies, the Cascades, a little bit in the northern Sierra Nevada. Just a closer look at some of these areas here. It's hard to see on your screen, but that's what we're looking at as far as snow. Temperatures today, man, it is a tough forecast from a meteorologist on the news here in the Carolinas. It just depends on where you are. If you live in the western Carolinas, it is going to be a cold, raw day. The eastern Carolinas, 50s and 60s. Texas, there I go. I haven't done that in a long time. I've not called Florida Texas. But anyways, Florida, very nice day, 70s, even low 80s. Locked in below freezing up here in the northeast, with still just this high pressure falling in that cold air. a chilly day across the Midwest, the upper Midwest, but nothing you guys can't handle. In the south central U.S. back into the 60s and 70s, and then out west, that's what it's looking like. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and have a wonderful and awesome Sunday.